Our first guest is here to share a personal story of resilience, purpose, and how sport played a role in his recovery. Please welcome to the show entrepreneur and post-transplant athlete Omar, Tom, or OT, as he's known to his friends. How are you, sir?
I'm wonderful, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Well, thank you for being our guest co-host, and I guess I should say thank you for representing the UAE and what's about to come.
I'm excited about this.
Tell us more.
I mean, it's a huge opportunity. It's something I've been wanting to do for some time. And we finally, after a lot of work, managed to get the UAE registered. So shout out to the team that put the work behind that. They've done an amazing job. And now we're officially the first group that's going to do this, you know, represent the nation, represent the UAE as a whole. And there's 6 of us, you know, and we're all post-transplant and we all got stories to share. And we're also very competitive, so we're excited about this opportunity.
Now I'm going to rewind a little bit because we need to share your story with the audiences. Tell us about your diagnosis and your journey so far.
Sure. So I was initially diagnosed probably when I was 2. My uncle was a pediatrician here in Fujairah, while my mother, when I was 2 years old, she was a little uncomfortable with what's happening. She's like, maybe something might be off. As a doctor herself, she had a few red flags, so she called her brother. Right, and went to see him, and he was like, all right, you guys got to go to London. One of my ex-colleagues who's a specialist in nephrology for kids. We go to the UK and began this journey of trying to find answers for what was it, kidney, or was it a bladder, or what exactly was wrong. And eventually it came down to what they've understood with 2 things. First off is something called a kidney reflux, that pretty much, you know, when we're young, our bodies are still developing. The connections from your kidney to the bladder doesn't close too well. So you end up with urine shooting back to the kidney, creating anterior scarring. And that resulted in something else later down the line called the kidney dysplasia, where one grows while the other is not growing as well, resulting in a restriction and limitation of capabilities of the kidney, for lack of a better term. And, you know, they thought I was going to have my kidneys fail by 13. And in the 90s, you cannot transplant children at the time. So projecting that I was going to get transplanted at 18, I made it to 21 without needing a transplant, thankfully, and then got my transplant done here in the UAE. I've been living here my whole life, so it was easy to, you know, I think connect with the people, the community, the staff, because we have a history here for so long. So we're able to go through the process, I think, in some manners a lot faster as well.
Wow.
I know that you have a story about your transplant getting rejected immediately. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so in 2010, I had my first surgery. My father was the donor. And unfortunately, a few weeks in, my immune system was ready to go. They're like, okay, this is not one of ours.
Foreign object.
This is new here, let's get rid of it. And that's how a rejection happens. And one of the early things you're told after a transplant is that if you feel a fever, rush to the hospital, because that's either a rejection or it's an infection. Either way, you need to come back. So a few weeks in, I got rushed to the emergency and due to a fever, and they caught it, which was great. But then we began this process of trying to protect and save the kidney. And in that 30-day stint while I was at the hospital, unfortunately, my lungs crashed as well. I caught something in the air, because generally during that time we're severely immunosuppressed as they're trying to get the body to accept it. And I woke up a few days later in the ICU with a ventilator, and I was not allowed to take it off because my lungs stopped working. Wow. So the doctors were like, we had to choose save the kidney, save your life. So we chose your life, and we stopped your immunosuppressants to give your body a fighting chance to protect its own lungs. The analogy that I was given was that it's sort of like a lawnmower. You're trying to kickstart the engine of your lungs to give it an opportunity, which thankfully worked, but the kidney got a lot of damage as a result. So they projected 2 years, I made it to 6. And then 2016, second transplant where my brother was the donor.
What an incredible story.
Isn't it? I'm blown away by it. And then even to hear about, I guess, for want of a much better word, how sort of weak you became during these times, and then you've moved on and a second transplant. To now be an athlete full stop is one thing, but to be a competing athlete on a global stage, I mean, that's just phenomenal.
Yeah, I'm very lucky. I always say this, we're really blessed. I think we're some of the luckiest people, because even then, despite hearing my story, I think that when I meet other post-transplant athletes and I hear their stories and just what they've been through makes my experience feel a lot easier. We're blessed. We're truly, truly grateful for the experience.
Now, can you just explain to our audiences why the World Transplant Games exist?
Sure. So the World Transplant Games are there they have multiple objectives. One is obviously to bring attention to this, and most importantly is to bring attention to the fact that there's life after transplant, that your life is not over, and you don't have to be sedentary and given to just, the pains and recoveries post-transplant. There is a lot of physical damage that happens, but I think the mental and emotional tends to get overlooked. And sport has been a huge way for you to process through that. It's become such an important part of my life where, like, even today, I had to train this morning. If I didn't get my workout in, I don't start my day. It becomes part and parcel of your life. So the message is about not just surviving, but rather thriving after transplant. The fact that you could do this, the fact that we're not only getting to play sports, but performing at a competitive level at a global scale, that this is possible, right? I think is a huge part of the message. And there's different age categories. So you've got young kids and, their teens, and then you've also got older people categories of 50 plus as well. So everybody's welcome to compete. A lot of people just show up to prove that they can do it, to prove to themselves first and foremost, before proving it to everybody else. And then there are people like me who are like, you know what, let's go for gold. So you get all kinds of great athletes there.
We love meeting people like you, and you're a storyteller by profession. I want to know if there's somebody who could be watching who's currently on a waiting list for an organ, they're feeling a little bit hopeless. What would you say to them about life post-transplant?
I think the key thing that I would say is that life post-transplant is a beautiful blessing. It feels very strange at first. It's not normal anymore, but it's not normal. It has its greatness that comes with it. It gives you a newfound sense of gratitude. It gives you a newfound sense of understanding and self-reflection that I might have not. I mean, I was 21 when I had my first surgery, so there was a lot of self-discovery as an identity. The older you get, I think it might be a little easier in terms of that, but the understanding and the reflection you have within yourself and the connection you develop with the people around you and the community, I think, is important. And a second contract at life is really what it is. You get this opportunity, and never lose hope, because that is truly a new beginning for your life that goes beyond just what you've experienced and what you know.
It's interesting because exactly like Faris said, you are a storyteller by profession. So I want to know more about that, but I guess more about how you're using your incredible platform to, I guess, raise awareness, not only for, as Faris said, life after transplant, but also, I guess, to potential donors.
Correct.
Right?
Yeah, my brother and my dad are both donors, and they're having a very healthy, fruitful life. I mean, my dad had to lose weight to be a donor, and that's when he began his fitness. My dad did not exercise before that, so that was the beginning of my dad deciding, you know what, I'm gonna train. And now my dad walks every morning. He's committed to his exercises, and that was since 2010. So he's still there. It's been 15 plus years. He's still putting in the work. My brother is having a wonderful life as well. He's one of he's a Dubai kid through and through. Where it's like paddle in the evening with the boys in football. So he's in that, and he got married last year as well. So
Congrats.
I think for donors, the opportunities of life are also still there. I think that you'll do well as a donor, because you can still live a very healthy life with one kidney.
Well, OT, we're just so happy to have you on the show with us, and we're so happy you're going to stay on the show as our guest co-host.